Hey everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about the characters and their choices. Enjoy the story. I never imagined that I'd be here, telling this story, but here I am. I guess it's all come down to this. Maybe by sharing it, I'll make sense of what happened, or at least, I'll understand myself better. I'm Emma, 33 years old, married for 10 years to Jason, who's 35. We've known each other since high school, and everything used to be perfect. Or, at least, it felt that way back then. The thing about relationships, though, is they evolve. Sometimes in ways you don't expect. At first, I thought it was just a phase. The excitement started to fade. Jason and I were still close, still in love, but something was off. We had gotten so comfortable. Comfortable in a way that didn't feel right anymore. Jason was working a lot. He's an engineer. Smart, dependable, and always there when I needed him. But there was no fire between us. We'd spend nights watching TV, barely talking. There was no more spark, no passion. And after a while I stopped trying to fix it. I just got used to it. Then came Jack. Jack was 22, fresh out of college, and worked part-time at the diner down the street from our house. He wasn't anything like Jason. Jack was raw energy, youth, the kind of guy who could talk about anything and make you feel like you were the center of the world. And when he looked at me, I felt noticed again. Sin. It was like he could sense that I was starving for attention. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself, it's nothing. He's just being friendly. But there was something in his gaze, the way he lingered just a little too long when he handed me my coffee, or when he'd laugh at one of my jokes. I wasn't used to it, and maybe I liked it more than I should have. One day, after my usual coffee stop at the diner, he asked me if I wanted to grab a drink sometime. I remember hesitating, feeling this internal battle between what I should do and what I wanted to do. I almost said no. Almost, but I didn't, I agreed. I didn't tell Jason. He wouldn't understand. He'd never know. I convinced myself that it was harmless. I wasn't cheating. I was just going out for a drink, right? The night we met up, I was nervous. I hadn't felt that way in years. Jack had this energy about him. Like he could light up a room with just his presence. He had short, messy brown hair and dark, deep eyes that made it impossible not to look at him. We sat at a bar, had a couple of drinks, and talked for hours. About everything and nothing. He made me laugh like I hadn't laughed in a long time. It felt easy, comfortable. He was interested in everything I said, and I was interested in him. It was like we were both craving the same thing. The thrill, the excitement, the feeling that something was just beginning. And in that moment, it felt like I was alive again. I hadn't realized how much I missed feeling like this. We didn't kiss that night, but I could feel the tension, the chemistry building. It was like a slow burn, and I couldn't stop it. Neither could he. The next few days, we texted, and the texts weren't innocent. They were flirty, suggestive, but nothing crossed a line, right? Or maybe it was already crossing a line without me realizing. He'd say things like, "I can't stop thinking about you," or, "You have no idea how beautiful you look tonight." And I'd reply with something playful, like, "Stop. You're making me blush." But in my head, the words were like a spark to dry kindling. It was only a matter of time before the fire would catch. And it did. It wasn't anything big at first. Just a little more touching than I should have allowed, a little more flirting. One evening, he invited me to his apartment. I told myself it would be just for a drink, just for a chat, but the second I walked into that place, everything changed. The way he looked at me. The way he smiled. The way he touched me. It was too much, and I couldn't stop myself. I kissed him, and then it wasn't just a kiss. It was everything I'd been missing. Passion, spontaneity, excitement. We ended up in his bed, and for that one night, nothing else mattered. I didn't think about Jason. I didn't think about anything other than what was happening in that moment. For the first time in years, I felt wanted, alive, and desired. And as selfish as it sounds, I didn't want it to end. When I left Jack's apartment that night, I didn't feel guilty. Not at first. I didn't feel like I had done something wrong. I felt exhilarated. Free. I felt like I was finally living again. I convinced myself that it was just a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. I told myself that Jack was just a fling, that it would never happen again. But I knew deep down that I wasn't being honest with myself. I had already crossed the line, and there was no going back. I don't even know how to explain it. Maybe I was seeking something I didn't even understand. Maybe it was just a temporary escape from the life I had built. But in those moments with Jack, I forgot about everything. The responsibilities, the routine, the fact that I was married to a man who used to be my best friend. And then, of course, things started to escalate. One night, Jack texted me again. This time, the words were bolder, more daring. "I can't stop thinking about you, Emma. I want to see you again. Now." I could feel my pulse quicken. The temptation was too strong. But I couldn't let Jason find out. He couldn't know. So I lied. I told him I was going out with friends. And he didn't question it. He never did. It was like he had his own life, his own routine, and I had mine. That night, I went to Jack's again. And now, sitting here, reflecting on everything, I don't know where it all went wrong. How I went from being the woman who vowed to be loyal to the man I loved, to someone I hardly recognized. I keep thinking of Jason, and how, at that moment, he was home, probably watching TV, unaware of everything. That's what gets me the most, the way I deceived him without even thinking twice. I thought it wouldn't affect anything, but it did, and I had no idea just how much. After that first night with Jack, I told myself it was a one-time thing, that I wouldn't go back again. But I knew I was lying to myself. There was something about him, his youth, his energy, his wild, unpredictable nature, that made it impossible to stay away. It wasn't about Jason anymore. It wasn't even about Jack at first. It was about me. I was craving something I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Jack represented a life I could never have with Jason. The excitement, the unknown, the rawness of it all. It felt like I was waking up from a long, dull dream. So, when Jack texted me again the following week, I didn't hesitate. I didn't even pause to think about Jason. I didn't tell him where I was going, I just told him I was going out with some friends again. He didn't question me. Why would he? He trusted me. I drove to Jack's apartment that night, my heart beating faster than usual. I tried to play it cool, but I was nervous. Nervous in a way I hadn't been in years. I parked my car a block away from his place so Jason wouldn't recognize it if he drove by. I didn't want to get caught. Not yet, anyway. When I got there, Jack was waiting for me, that same smirk on his face that made my stomach flip every time. He didn't waste any time. The second I stepped into his apartment, he pulled me into a kiss, and I let him. I knew what was going to happen next. I didn't need to say anything. Neither of us did. The kiss was hard and desperate, the kind you only get when you're craving something forbidden. I could feel my hands trembling as they roamed over his body, and it was like all my guilt, all my doubts, just melted away. I didn't care about anything except the way he was making me feel. "I've been thinking about you all week," Jack murmured against my lips, his hands sliding under my shirt. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't want to think. I just wanted to feel. So I kissed him harder, my fingers undoing the buttons on his shirt. It wasn't long before we were both naked, and I was in his bed again. This time, it felt different. More urgent. More real. I was no longer just a woman trying to escape her dull marriage. I was someone who had made a choice. A choice that felt almost inevitable by this point. Jack was rough, passionate, in a way that Jason hadn't been in years. The way his hands touched me, the way he whispered my name, made me feel desired in a way I hadn't felt in so long. I tried to push all thoughts of Jason out of my mind, but they kept creeping in. I could almost hear his voice, asking where I was, wondering if everything was okay. But it was too late now. I had crossed that line. There was no turning back. Afterward, Jack held me close, his fingers tracing idle circles on my skin. He kissed the top of my head, and I tried not to think about what this all meant. "Don't go," Jack said softly, his voice a mix of longing and something darker, something possessive. I pulled away slightly to look at him. "I can't stay. Jason will notice if I'm gone too long." His face fell for a moment, but then he smirked again, that familiar cocky grin. "Let him. Maybe he'll realize you deserve more than he's giving you." I couldn't respond. What was there to say? He was right. But that didn't make it any easier. I had a life with Jason. A family, history. And yet, here I was, in this apartment, tangled in the sheets with a guy I barely knew, living a secret life. "I have to go," I repeated, sitting up and grabbing my clothes. My hands were shaking as I dressed. I was scared of what this meant for me, for my marriage, for everything. But at the same time, there was a part of me that didn't want it to end. Jack didn't try to stop me, though. I could see the disappointment in his eyes. As I left his apartment that night, I couldn't help but wonder what the hell I was doing. I was walking down this dark path, and I didn't know if I was ready for what lay ahead. When I got home, Jason was already asleep. He didn't ask where I'd been. He didn't even look up from his book when I walked through the door. It was almost like we were strangers living under the same roof. I stood there for a moment, staring at him, and I felt a wave of guilt hit me. But then, just as quickly, the guilt was replaced by anger. Anger at him for not noticing, for not trying harder, for not being the man I needed. I crawled into bed next to him, careful not to wake him up. As I lay there in the dark, my mind kept drifting back to Jack. His touch, his words, the way he made me feel. I should have felt terrible, but all I could think about was how alive I felt in those moments with him. With Jason, I felt invisible. With Jack, I felt like I mattered. The next day, Jason asked me about my night, but it was like we were going through the motions. I lied, of course, told him I'd just been out with some friends. I had gotten good at lying, at pretending everything was normal. But deep down, I knew it wasn't normal. I was living a double life, and it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. I never thought it would happen this way. I kept telling myself that everything was fine, that I could keep living my double life without it affecting anything. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. I could feel the tension building, like a storm waiting to break, but I didn't think it would come so soon. Jason had been working late a lot, and I got used to it. I liked the silence. It made things easier for me, easier to hide what I was doing. But one night, everything changed. I had told Jason that I was going to meet some friends for drinks, just like all the other times. But this time, instead of going to Jack's, I was planning something different. I was going to meet Jack again. And this time, it was going to be at my house. Jack and I had talked about it for a while. It felt risky, but exciting. I wasn't sure why I felt so bold that night, but I knew I needed to feel something. Jason wouldn't be home until late, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity. I was craving him, craving the thrill of doing something forbidden, and the idea of Jack in my house made my heart race. When Jack arrived, we didn't waste any time. The minute he stepped inside, I kissed him hard, feeling the same electricity I had felt every time we were together. We made our way to the living room, and things quickly escalated from there. I was on edge, my mind telling me that we shouldn't be doing this, but my body was telling me something else. I was pulled into this whirlwind of desire that I couldn't control. Then, just as things were heating up, I heard the front door open. My heart stopped. It was Jason. My pulse thundered in my ears, and for a split second I froze. I didn't know what to do, how to react. It was too late to stop. Jason was already standing in the doorway of the living room, his eyes wide with shock, his face pale. "Emma," he said, his voice cold and empty. "What the hell is going on here?" I felt like the ground was falling out beneath me. The guilt hit me like a physical blow, but there was no time to think, no time to explain. Jason was standing there, watching us, his expression a mix of confusion, hurt, and raw anger. I quickly pulled away from Jack, my hand shaking. I stood up, fumbling for words that didn't come. "Jason, I didn't." My voice cracked, and I couldn't find a way to make it right. There was no way to explain this. Not now. Not like this. Jason's eyes flicked between me and Jack, and then, just like that, the anger in his eyes intensified. "So this is what you've been doing all this time?" His voice was low, trembling with rage, and I could see his fists clenching. "You've been lying to me, to my face." "For how long?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. The truth was there, hanging in the air between us, thick and suffocating. The weight of what I'd done settled on my chest, pressing down, making it hard to breathe. "Jason, please, let me explain," I whispered, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for this to happen." He shook his head, cutting me off. "No, Emma, there's nothing to explain. You don't get to explain this. You don't get to betray me like this, and think everything will be fine." His voice cracked. The pain clear in every syllable. I could see it in his eyes. He was devastated. My heart broke at the sight of him. I had never wanted to hurt him, but now it was clear that I had. I had destroyed everything we had. Jason stepped back, his hand running through his hair in disbelief. "I thought we had something. I thought you were my partner. But this is a betrayal. Emma, you've thrown it all away for what?" A quick thrill. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to apologize, to beg for his forgiveness, but I couldn't. I couldn't fix this. Not now. Not after everything I had done. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. Jack was standing in the corner, silent, his eyes darting between us. He looked uncomfortable, unsure of what to do. I felt a pang of guilt for dragging him into this mess. But it didn't matter now. Everything was falling apart. Jason turned his gaze to Jack, and for a brief moment, I saw something like disgust in his eyes. "You," he said, his voice almost a growl. "You knew she was married, didn't you? And you still did this?" Jack swallowed hard, looking at the floor. He didn't say anything. He just nodded, looking guilty. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he muttered, his voice barely audible. Jason let out a bitter laugh. "You didn't mean for it to go this far. And yet here we are." His eyes never left me as he spoke, and it was like he was seeing me for the first time. "I trusted you, Emma. And you lied. For how long?" I couldn't answer him. I had no defense. There was no excuse for what I had done. Jason turned away from us, his back to me. "I can't do this. I can't even look at you right now." And just like that, he walked out. He didn't say anything else. He didn't even slam the door. It was just over. He was gone. I stood there, staring at the door, the silence in the room suffocating me. The weight of what I had done pressed down on me like a ton of bricks. I had destroyed everything. Jason was gone. He didn't even look back. Jack didn't say anything. He just stood there, waiting for me to speak, but there was nothing left to say. I had ruined it. All of it. I don't even remember the exact moment when Jack left. Maybe I was too numb to notice, or maybe I just didn't care anymore. Everything felt like a blur, and I was left standing in the middle of a life I had ruined. The guilt was a heavy weight around my chest, suffocating me, but at the same time, there was this emptiness inside me that I couldn't fill. It was like I had reached the point of no return, and now I was just waiting for the consequences to fully hit me. After Jack left, I sat down on the couch, staring at the door where Jason had walked out. My mind was a mess, full of fragmented thoughts and painful realizations. I thought about the lies I had told Jason. About the nights we spent together when I should have been home with him. I thought about the way he looked at me tonight, like he didn't even know who I was anymore. He was right, of course. I had betrayed him in the worst way possible. How could I even begin to fix that? I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually, I got up and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking as I dialed Jason's number. I needed to talk to him. I needed to apologize, to explain myself. I had to make him understand, though I wasn't sure if that was even possible. The phone rang and rang, but he didn't answer. I left a message. My voice cracked as I spoke, the tears that had been threatening to come finally breaking through. "Jason, it's me, Emma. I don't know where to begin. I know what I did was unforgivable. I never meant to hurt you. You have to know that. But I made a mistake. A huge one. Please, just let me talk to you. I need to explain. Please don't let this be the end of us." I hung up, my heart racing in my chest. I sat there for a moment, waiting for him to call back. But I knew deep down that he probably wouldn't. He had every right to be angry, to want nothing to do with me. The night stretched on, and I didn't sleep a wink. I kept staring at my phone, waiting for a message, a call, anything. But nothing came. The next morning, the silence in the house was deafening. I walked into the kitchen, where I found the remnants of our life together. His coffee mug still on the counter, his keys on the hook by the door. It was all so normal, so mundane, but it felt like I was living in a different reality now. I had destroyed it all. I tried calling him again, but still no answer. I sent a text, something simple, though I wasn't sure if it would make a difference anymore. "I'm so sorry, I love you. Please come back. Please." But there was no reply. I spent the day at home, pacing, thinking about everything I had done. Every lie. Every stolen moment with Jack. I kept asking myself why. Why did I do it? What had I been looking for? Jason wasn't perfect. But he was always there for me. He was loyal, dependable, and I had thrown it all away for a brief moment of excitement. In the afternoon, I decided to go to his office. I had to see him. I had to apologize in person. Maybe he wouldn't want to listen to me, but I couldn't just let him go without trying. I couldn't let our 10 years together be erased so easily. When I got to his office, I stood outside for a moment, just looking at the building. I almost turned around and left, but then I took a deep breath and walked inside. Jason's secretary looked up as I entered. "Hey, Emma, what are you doing here?" She sounded surprised, but not unfriendly. "I need to see Jason," I said, my voice tight with emotion. "Is he here?" She hesitated, then nodded. "He's in his office. Or he's been pretty upset. Are you sure you want to do this?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "I have to." I walked down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. I reached his office door, and I hesitated. What if he didn't want to see me? What if he told me to leave? But then I remembered what I had done, and I knew I had to try. I knocked softly. "Come in." Jason's voice came from the other side. I opened the door slowly, and there he was, sitting behind his desk, looking just as tired and hurt as I had imagined. His eyes flicked up to meet mine, and for a second, there was nothing but silence between us. I could see the pain in his eyes, the betrayal, and it made my stomach churn. "Jason. I started, but the words didn't come. I felt like I had been holding my breath for hours, and now, I was afraid to speak. He didn't say anything at first. He just stared at me, his jaw clenched tight. Finally, he stood up and walked around the desk, his hands stuffed in his pockets. "I don't even know what to say, Emma. I don't know how you could do this to me." His voice was rough, almost hoarse. "I trusted you. I loved you, and now, you've thrown all away for, what? A guy you barely know?" "I'm so sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But I love you, Jason. I do. I've always loved you, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything." Jason shook his head, his expression darkening. "It's not just a mistake, Emma. It's a betrayal. You've been lying to me for months. I can't even look at you the same way anymore." I felt my heart shatter. I knew what he was saying was true. There was no easy way to fix what I had done. There was no way to make it better. "Please, Jason," I whispered, stepping closer to him. "Please, don't give up on us. I know I've ruined everything, but I'll do anything to make it right. I'll prove to you that I can be the person you deserve. Please, just give me a chance." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. For a moment I thought he might say something, that he might agree to try and fix things. But instead, he just sighed, looking away. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Emma. I don't know if I can trust you again." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had no idea how to respond, how to make things better. Jason stood there for a moment longer, then walked toward the door. "I need space, Emma. I can't talk to you right now." And with that, he left. He walked out of the office, and I was left standing there alone, with nothing but my broken promises and the weight of what I had done.